Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building Clearwater County. And in today's episode, we're going to take a little bit of a break from everything that we've been working on to focus on something that I've been putting it off for a long time. And that is this rural area right here. You know, for this being a rural build, it's really sad that we have all of this empty rural land that is unused. And we have a couple of prop farms over here. They look pretty bad, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. And I think I have some ideas on how to do farms in a whole new way. So sit with me today, and I think you're going to learn something. And I think that this might be a way that I do farms from here on out. But before we get to that, I'm gonna give a huge shout out to today's video sponsor. So I was going through my old save files the other day, and I found what might be my greatest masterpiece ever. And I need to tell the whole world about it. So thank goodness that today's video sponsor is Squarespace. With its powerful and beautiful online platform, it's perfect for creating websites of any kind. With Squarespace, you can create a website that builds a community around your city by creating a site with a fully integrated comment system supporting replies, likes, and comments, as well as powerful blogging tools to create, share, and schedule posts. And once you've created a community around your city, you can connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content, manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights all in one easy-to-use platform. If this sounds good to you, head to squarespace.com/cityplannerplays to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to building some farms. Okay, so right here are two different examples of farms. I built these a long time ago on a stream where I was going to focus on some of these, farm areas, but instead built the town of Bradford. So, I had a fun time building Bradford. I'm glad it's there. That said, we still need to get back to these farms. Well, but what I want to point out here is if we take a look, this right here is a network. That means is I can move this around and it moves like a network. This is I believe that this is a prop, so I can move this around. Now, neither of these are functional farms, and that is an issue if you want this to actually be a rural area. So I think that we can resolve both of those issues in one swoop. Here's what we're going to try to do. First of all, I think that I've really separated this land out too much. So we're going to take some of this down, and instead of having all of these divisions, in some areas we might go like this. Just take it down a little bit more, make this land a little bit bigger because it doesn't need to be broken up quite so much. And then second of all, let's go through and we're going to start with this field right here. This network is a wheat network. Because it's a network, there's something that we can do. Now, I never thought to do this before today. I think it's really going to work out well for us. We're going to use our parallel road tool. And you might be thinking, what? That's not going to work. That's crazy. Well, just sit with me for a second and we'll see. I'm going to pull this out about 75 meters. We'll enter it right there. And then over here, we'll do the same thing. And then I'll go up here as well. And I think that's about all that I need. So I'm going to grab this end here, hold down Alt and slide this up. We'll do the exact same thing on this side. And over here, we've got that we're coming around the bend. So we want to make sure that we are not creating issues here. So I'm going to grab both of these. I backed out that top one just a bit. Now taking this one and sliding this one down. And then we'll move this side over as well. Check that out. That is awesome. Now you'll notice this is a little weird. We've got some issues. Control H will help with that. And I'd rather have the problem right here. This is all terrain. You can see that obviously because this is a network, it is going to treat this as a network. We will resolve that in a little bit. But I want to go through here and add some of these networks. I've got 4 of them specifically that we can work with. So we've got this one right here. Why don't we go through and we'll look for our network, farm fields. Okay, so we've got this field network, this wheat network, wheat cut, and young wheat. So obviously I do not have very good diversity of these networks, which is unfortunate, but we can work around it. So basically any of these areas that have the curves, I'm going to use my network fields. Anything that's not curved, I'm going to use plopped farms. So let's go ahead and focus on some of these network fields. And I'm just going to try to mix it up. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that this field network 0 doesn't work well. And I can demonstrate that if I zoom out, it just disappears right here. So I don't think that it has a very good low polygon load. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, and then in some cases, you'll get areas like this, where maybe it's a little more challenging. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that this is a network. You get all the good and the bad that comes with that. So that means I could come through here, drop this down, have it go just there. And now we're going to play with all of this. So I'm going to add a node in this network. Now I can grab the end of this one. And I pulled that right down. So now it's easy enough. I can fix this all up again. And I added this one up the side. I'm not convinced that that was necessary. Okay, and obviously this one isn't quite perfect because we've got this little area right here. We will resolve that. I'm not at all concerned. Let's try another one. We'll go with this young wheat. And what you can see is that I've managed to fill in a lot of this really quickly. So we've got a couple more spots here that are not filled in. I'm going to add in a farm right here, and this will be the main farm building for this. That said, we've got to up the ante a little bit here. So we're going to make this a working farm. The way that we're going to do that is we'll create a district here. Now, because these are all networks, this district is a little wonky to make. Just admittedly so, because if you think normally these districts snap to roads, well, these are all roads. So there's just a lot of snapping going on. So keep that in mind. Maybe you want to create your districts first. In reality, I think that was the right, that would have been the right choice, because this is a little bit frustrating. We'll name this Kaminiski Farms. Now this is really important that I have this here. I've got a couple of farm buildings. We can certainly leave those here. I think we're going to get rid of, no, we'll keep this here. I've got an idea for that house. I don't want that to be the main farm building for this though. So let's search for a house. We'll go for a historic house right here. Something that works well in the city or even out here. I love that. And then I want to go for some buildings to go along with this. So some sheds. Just so I can get some of this stuff in here. I'm going to send this up this way. And then we'll just organize this in the way that suits us. I'm not sure that this is the right road to use here. I'm going to try a couple of different rural roads to see which one looks the best. So I think we're going to just go with the normal dirt road. I don't necessarily love this transition. I've got to figure that out. But for the time being, this will work. So we have this here, and I want to decorate around here just a little bit. So why don't we make this an orchard? So let's go ahead and find the right tree for us. And we'll use our line tool here. And we should be able to see this. I think we need to space that out a little bit better. So we will increase this to maybe 10-ish meters. And now I'm going to grab this old farm fence that I picked up. And this is, again, a network. I've really focused on having lots of networks. And the reason for this is it just makes it so easy to put all this together. So right here, we have our angle on. So I'm going to run this along the road. Now, again, this is another candidate where actually maybe it makes the most sense to use our parallel road tool. Let's come along here. So there we go. Grab the parallel road tool to make this happen. And now we will grab this, use Alt, and move it a little bit back. And this is always one of those frustrating things. Sometimes you end up in a situation where you just can't grab what you want to grab. So I'm going to come through. I'm going to select that. Come into Picker. Inside of Move It. Now that's all I can select. So I can select that end. And now I can move it. There we go. And we've got one more side of this. Now the nice thing is with this selected with angle on, I can come through and finish this off. And over here, I think we're already looking pretty good, but really make sure we're doing a good job. There we go. Feeling good about that. So now it's just the final details. First of all, probably going as crazy as I am looking at the water. Let's get that situation rectified. We'll place the water pipes underneath the road right where they belong. And just for the sake of disaster response, we will go ahead and loop this. Now, keep in mind, this is a rural area. That's not really necessary in reality. Now that we've got this going, we've already got a power line here, though I don't love what's happening. It's a little far out there. I'm going to grab the big one and get this to be really close. The big circle there, I move that over, and I'm going to get that really close to the road. That's where you see these power lines, right at the road. So now we're seeing that this house is mad at us. So that's an easy solution. We just come over here, we fix this. Let's just set the minimum level to 2. And that should make it happy. We could also force a downgrade and say your maximum level is 1. I'm wondering, this is a level 2. So I'm just going to keep this at 1. Hopefully it should stop being mad soon. Maximum level 1, there we go. Low land value. It'll get better at some point. I'm fairly certain of it. Now let's go through and get some trees through here to make this place feel a little bit more alive. So I'm going to go through, I have all of the trees in the world available to me. There it is. Now we're happy. And I'm still enamored by all of Mr. Mason's trees. So just a couple. We don't need all that many through here. We've already got a lot going on. Okay, so now that's looking pretty clean. You might be wondering, what was the point of all of this? Well, there is a point, I promise. And the point is that we are going to make this a functioning farm. So what I've done is I've grabbed some really neat assets. So what these are actually ploppable service blocks. So what we're going to do is go ahead, and this is a farm. That was critical. Because it's a farm now, I can plop these. Now, we don't have a main building, so that's the very first thing that we're going to need to place. So let's look for that. Farm main. Right here, main building. So I'm going to place that right here. We've got our maintenance building. I'll place that right there. And then we have some workers' barracks. We'll place those, one here, maybe one right here, because we'll move that into this. And that is a different farm, so good. I'm happy to see that. The other thing, well, we'll start with these. So we're in here, and we've got these now, and this is the main building. So we can now move it, and slide this into our house. So there it is. That house is now the main building. And then we have this right here. This is one of our workers' barracks. We're going to put that in here. Now you can't see that. So this is our maintenance building, our workers' barracks. And now we've got all these fields, and that's where this gets really exciting. So we can come through, and right here, we've got large fruit field. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to place that here, and we'll just move it. And there's what it looks like. You can't see it, but now you can click on it, and this has one worker that's going to come and work the field. So really, really exciting. You can change the size of it, and really what it's doing is changing the production levels. Otherwise, it's always one worker. You can place more than one if you want to have more than one loading point. You can even go through here and set your building spawn points if that's something that you're interested in doing. Right now, it looks like my spawn point is right there, so I probably should change this. There we go. So this is a fully functioning farm right now. The one thing to keep in mind is I do have workers at this building right here. So I might actually want to take this building and change it. So we can come in here, we can add a local, and instead of this being an industrial building, I might just make this a dummy building and then save it, save and apply changes. Oh, we got an index array error. It does not like that. Oh, we are Metropolis, 55,000. So maybe dummy building is not the right choice. Let's see if we can get this working again. Okay, so I took this and I basically made it nothing. So I went through here and I added a local. The service is none. It doesn't do anything. It's just a prop now. And that seemed to do the trick. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. We'll go through, add local. The service will be none. Save and apply changes. And now, eventually, oh, no, it's still mad. It's still mad. Ah, we still have a worker count here. So interesting. To make it appear like this, I had to come through here, go into realistic population, add a local, And then for whatever reason, if I go and I make this a dummy and then I save and apply changes, it does this weird thing where there are still workers. I can get rid of this and then go to none afterwards, save and apply. Sometimes I get that error and now it has nothing. Now it's just a prop. So there's got to be a better way to do that. I haven't found it yet. If I do, I will let you guys know. But the good thing about everything that we've done now is that this is just a prop, just a dummy prop. No problems with these, and they are not going to impact our worker counts. So now here we are. We've got that. This is an operational farm. We can even see the production rate. No freight trucks in use, but that is working just fine. So now we need to make these work. So what we're going to do is come over and do the exact same thing. So we've got large crop fields, small fruit fields. We'll just do a large crop field for each of these. Now here's the thing, because this is a network, it's taken away all of my areas where I could snap to. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. I'm going to place 4 of these here, 2, 3, 4, and now I'll use move it to move these where I want the loading to occur on the farm field. So we'll add one there, one here, another right here, and another right there. So we're loading off this road. This is our main road for all of this. And I just want to double check. Kaminiski Farms goes all the way over here. Continue to build out Kaminiski Farms. I'm going to get rid of this. That's another farm. We'll worry about that in the future. We'll grab this one and easy enough. Come through here. Let's just center this one. So again, plus to get this in the center. Now there's something else that I have been wanting to add. So we've got this ditch also that I will, again, like the other assets, I will place these in the video description. This is a fun one. So I can come through here, again, use my parallel road tool, tab to move it over, minus to get it closer to the road. We'll place that there, and then we'll go ahead and send this around. Now, the unfortunate thing, I think this is probably not the greatest place to use it. So let's get rid of this network farm in this one, and we'll use some of our ploppable ones. So these are ditches. This is an old asset that has been revived. And what you see here is we've got these ditches. So they're really nice. They look really legitimate. We can pull these right over. But because these are networks, they're going to interfere with some of these assets. So this is a situation where we're going to need to use one of our other farm assets. So we'll come through and we will use some of our ploppable fields. Maybe we'll go with corn this time around. Okay, so for this, I just wanted to make sure that I was going with something that was not a network, but also not a real farm. So right here, I've got a number of different field decor sets. So the nice thing about these is that they're not going to have any sorts of conflicts with my networks. I will need to use anarchy so that I'm not breaking these, and I'm going to want to be really careful about placing these. So I'm going to place the first one, and then I'm going to use move it to place the others. So I'll copy this, and then I can use alt to move this in place, although it didn't work well. Sometimes you just don't get it exactly how you want it, so you've got to eyeball it. This is one of those situations. Truthfully, I could probably leave a little bit of a gap in there if I really wanted to. I'm going to try to just overlap them slightly. Then I'll duplicate those in place. And again, overlap just a little bit. You know, some of it doesn't look absolutely perfect, but it's pretty darn good. And I'm pretty pleased with the way it's turning out. So the reason why I wanted these, you can see that if I get too close to the other networks, I lose my ditch entirely. So just something to keep in mind. Now we're going to use a network fences like this. And the reason, again, that we're doing that is we can control these fairly simply. Really nice. There we go. And I went all the way around and now it's perfect. No overlaps. Hit enter and we're good to go. Now let's just make sure it didn't have any impact on our ditches. Nope, they're good. Except that I would really prefer, now that I think about it, to have the ditch on the outside. So we'll just move this in. Okay, so now we've got the ditch around the outside, the fence on the inside. A little bit of wonkiness here, but I think that's to be expected a bit. You can raise these up a little bit if that helps the cause, or lower it down, because they're networks. It will terraform the terrain. Looking absolutely wonderful. And now if we wanted to take this up to the next level even further, we would take it one more step. So let's grab some grasses to put on the side. And then we'll go ahead and also add an entryway into this area. And maybe we should have left some rows in here for the vehicles to get around. We didn't, that's okay. Now, the very last thing I want to do is add in, obviously we need a couple of trees through here. So one thing you'll notice with all of these networks is that you start to, especially with after the update that we just recently had, where now you can add any tree to a roadway network, that's the default, is it wants to do that. So you can come through and get really picky with it. I think the easiest way is to actually go in to move it, grab it, and duplicate the tree. And now it doesn't really have any conflicts there. So you could come through and, add some trees along here if you want. Now, obviously, we need to also add in our service farms here. Otherwise, this will not be operational. So we are going to add that in right there. And you might notice this and go, oh my goodness, what just happened? You just have to move the block a little bit closer to a road, and then you won't have those problems. So there we go. And you see that this just spawned at the fruit field. How cool is that? How cool is that? So we're missing another thing, and that is pretty important here. Remember, there's a whole supply chain to these farms. If we take a look, we generate crops. Interestingly, it's not showing us generating these yet. Maybe that's because we have this here. Not 100% sure. Oh, there it is. There it is. 16 tons of crops. So we are not turning this into anything. We have no storage, so that is a concern. We got a solution there though as well. So let's add one of these ubiquitous red silos. This looks like a park asset, which is not a big deal. Let's see what it does in terms of entertainment. Nothing. It's just a ploppable building. This is probably the best that we could ask for, truthfully. Now we have this right here, which is a large grain silo, and we can add this. There we go. Makes this house unhappy. It's noisy. You see it's poking right out there, so we're going to need to grab that. One of two options. Either grab this or we grab the silo and tuck it in. We'll do both. So there we go. And now this is fully operational, totally functional. You see the grasses right here, the ditch, the trees, field. This feels so good in my opinion. This is what we were looking for. Now we've got this area right here. I insinuated that this is something that we need to fix. We absolutely do. So we are going to come through and obviously we need to be able to select trees. Select some trees. We're going to copy these. So here, what I'm going to do is just pull these around and load this side up. And that's how we'll resolve that issue. Truthfully, with some of these anyway, you'd want to see these trees as windbreaks. So we can come through and create that windbreak and just have a small area where this is going in. Obviously, that's not great to see that, go underneath there. If we wanted to make this absolutely beautiful, we could come through, and I'm wondering, let's see if we can find a nice grass asset to fill this in with. Yeah, and this is, I think, a situation where you have to accept that it's not going to be 100% perfect. When you have this, the other idea would be to grab an asset that maybe isn't quite as dark. So I'm going to select this one and upgrade these. All right, this was an absolute disaster. So I decided to freestyle a little bit for a second. Look what happened. I had to redo all the fields. So the reason I wanted to upgrade to this one is I think that it potentially will look a little bit better when we are going through and doing this. That said, now it's disappearing. So, sometimes your initial thought may have been your best. So this is an option. You can just try a different field and see if it fits a little bit better. The other thing you can do is terraform up and down a little bit. And the interesting thing is, as I went through and did this, I left Anarchy on and a random tree came up through here. And I actually like that. You'll sometimes see that in fields where you get a couple of trees, totally fine. So now I want to do a couple more things in this area. We've got our tree brush. Okay, so I had to move the forestry brush, a little bit frustrating, but we got it to work. So I'm going to take this down to a rational size, and what we're going to do is spray a little bit of landscaping through here. We need to be very careful. I don't want to inadvertently get this going through roads, so we're going to turn anarchy off there. We'll even turn this anarchy off here, and hopefully, yeah, there we go. No issues. So I've got this on a pretty severe setting in terms of the density, and you'll see the strength is way up there, and that's fine. I want to hide the terrain. And sometimes you just have some of these areas that are indeed forested, and I think along the train track is as good a spot as any for those. Let's move some of our power lines. I'm going to pull these on the side that we actually have things occurring. We'll even switch in a couple of spots, and this will make it so that I can add in a few more trees. There we go. And yeah, that's looking a ton better, just a ton better. Now here we've got duplicate lines coming through. Probably not super necessary. I am going to just see if I can pull some of these over. You see, I'm having a tough time moving these. So we are going to go into our marquee selection, clear this out, select our node and our picker. And now that I've selected that node, now this is the only thing that I can select. That's helpful because I just want to pull these a little bit closer. And it can be a little more challenging than using just, our normal single selection tool. But once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Actually, let's get these on the other side next to the field. I'm doing this for a very specific purpose. I again want to get some more trees through here. They don't need to be everywhere, but in a lot of rural areas, you'll notice that we have some trees along here. Ooh, we're getting rid of all of those trees now. That was not my intention. Now, the other thing, so we've got this here now. I like that there is a reason for this to stop. When we go into our forestry brush, we can also start to think about why there wouldn't be trees in places. So honestly, these are in more difficult terrain areas. So right here, we got some slopes. So say that those trees didn't get cleared as a result of those. And I even want to think about that a little bit out here. So as we come through, let's go ahead and do this. We'll get rid of this road because there would be no purpose for this road or this one. Same thing here. That's on a slope. It's probably not getting built. Same thing here. So this could be one farm now because there's just no purpose for these roads. They're not going to get built because the slopes are too steep. And now that gives us the ability to come through and have a logical reason leaving the trees in this area. So I'm going to zoom out. We've got our terrain on. It's beefing up the number of trees at lower elevations over here to make this feel a little bit more natural. And now there's a reason that some of these things have occurred. Obviously, there are some things that are a little wonky here that we're going to need to take care of. Things like this power line just randomly cutting through here. If we do that, it's not that it doesn't happen. It absolutely happens. We just need to be a little more deliberate about it. So here is a case where maybe I turn anarchy off and get these exactly where I want them. And now again, I come back through maybe with a different size, something a little more appropriate. And what I've tried to do here is show that trees were removed where it was easy to do so and not where they weren't. And look at that. That feels like dense forest. And I really, really like that. And it really gives us some framing as to where the rest of this will go. Oh man, these new farms look a ton better than the old. I think this is going to take a number of builds, but with some time and some patience, we can come up with some really exceptional farms. When we come through and take a look at these, now they make sense a little bit more. So we've got 31 tons of our own production here. Not a ton. We could certainly beef that up by adding more of those crop field service blocks if we wanted to. but I'm totally fine with it existing just like this. We don't have too many jobs, and that's the main thing. I want to be able to load up this entire area without having a million jobs created, because that is how you end up in kind of a rough spot here. But also lower this, reset that one, and we'll make the maximum level, we'll make it 1. There we go. Now that'll never have issues. So we're going to need to do more of these in the future, but for the time being, I think that we need to take a look at Kaminiski Farms in its full glory with a brief rural tour. That was a fun little rural tour. I don't know why I call it that, but we'll go with it. Now, the one thing you'll notice here is that here we are at sunset and it is very dark. What are people driving to work? Is that a Prius? Prius Prime? Okay, and a Bolt? I guess whatever works. So here we are on our farm. We've got no lights, so let's add in a little bit of lighting. So I'm going to set this to be completely dark now, and I'm thinking of just one light on the side near the garage. This is kind of like when I think back to some farms that I've been to, or even just rural homes. Maybe they'll have a couple of lights. Usually it's on the side of the garage. If I'm being completely reasonable there, there'll be a little light on the side. That said, I don't know that I have the exact perfect lights here. Maybe in front of the house, in the walkway, we'll have one. Okay, so I've got a little bit of light there. I attached one of these, or I put it inside of the silo. Looks a little bit nicer. The other thing that we could do is add in a flag. We've got a number of flags that we have to add. We're just going to go with an American flag. We don't want this to be too big. Just a little something that I would certainly expect to see at a farm, maybe right in front of their house. Maybe a reason to delete that even. So we've got our flag post right there. There we go. Just a little piece of rural America. And truthfully, this is what the build is really missing. We need more areas like this. Now, I know that this is popping in and out there. Kind of one of the unfortunate things about the loads. We could up this, but I've got to really play a game here. So right here, I have monitor it. And I think it's important that you understand behind the hood what I'm doing and what I'm optimizing for. So right now, as it sits, if I turn towards certain parts of the build, you can see that my FPS drops. And even at certain angles, it drops. So if I'm at top view here at the farm, I get 60, 61 or better. Awesome. That's excellent. Feels buttery smooth. Now in Ashland, there are portions where I'm getting 26, 23, and you can feel it drop down to 15. So I'm trying to make sure that as I optimize my settings, I'm not getting this to drop all that far down. So one of the things that we're going to have to deal with is a little bit of imperfection here and our loads popping a little bit. If I go through and I come into my options and I adjust for this, and let's say I come down here and I go into ultimate level of detail and I take my networks and I bump them up to something awesome. So we'll go 4,000 meters. Now I'm not doing too bad as I'm looking at this, and you see that my loads aren't popping. Even this one, which was disappearing, it takes a lot longer to disappear. Now when I look over here, I get 16 frames per second. So that's the problem. I really got to figure out what my best optimization is. And that's something that if you use these network fields or really any asset and you're using ultimate level of detail, these are things that you're going to need to work out for yourself. Just see that one change to networks got me up to almost 40 frames per second looking at Ashland. So big difference. Got to deal with a little bit of load popping, but it's not the end of the world. So I think we're going to leave it here though. We've got more farms to build, but I feel like we have a pattern and way to get there. And I think I'm going to finish up more of these on stream. If you're watching this, I believe that I've already had a stream on Wednesday, and we are focusing on building some of the areas that are maybe a little bit less interesting to build in the video because there's a lot of them. are absolutely necessary to make the build feel complete. And that's what we're going for. So we'll leave it here. I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I really cannot wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.